Coach, you feel like things are shaping up in terms of rotation and lineup card?
Yeah, for the most part, I think our right now the rotation is going to be Detmer, Wansing, and Cortez in that order. Remains to be seen on what we'll do next Tuesday and get through the weekend and win them one at a time that way and see who's left over. But and then from a lineup standpoint, have a pretty good idea of what I want to do, and you'll find out Friday night.
When you look at guys like Minnick and Werner, how important is it to have them coming into the season at 100% health and the kind of production that they could potentially, the ceiling that they could have being starting there?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that as the head coach, along with our staff, I've tried really hard, especially with this team, with an older team. They have a really good concept of how we play and what the standards are. You get them enough repetition to where they're ready to play, but I just feel like with a team like this, you want your horses feeling great when you get to the starting block, so they're right out of the gate. Because once you start the season, that's normally the best you're ever going to feel. The rest of the year, you're beat up. So, but yeah, Minnick especially, noticeable difference in his play versus last year, and then Trevor Werner, of course. When he's healthy, he's as good of a skilled player as there is in the country.
Ross, what did you guys see in Troy Wansing, and what made you guys want to get him, and what do you think he'll add to this team?
Well, I mean, left-handed pitching, I don't know if it's the rotation of the earth, but it's strike throwers that are left-handed seem to get outs. And Troy, had a nice season at Purdue last year. He's changed his body significantly. He's refined his pitches with Coach Yeski. Now it's just a matter of him, executing pitches. And I think just like a freshman coming here or a junior college transfer, there's an adjustment period, and that's what his challenge is going to be, and that's what it has been. Is you don't have to be any better than you are in the bullpen. Just go execute pitches and get outs. And his challenge is going to be handling his emotions and handling his adrenaline, so he doesn't have an over try. And when pitchers do that, then either their stuff isn't as good or they don't throw strikes. And so Troy just needs to check his emotions at the door and have a really business-like approach, and share the ball, allow us to play defense behind him. And he has, he's a lefty that gets up to 95 miles an hour with a good slider and changeup. But it's about executing pitches and being consistent with those pitches. That's going to make him a good pitcher. So that's what we're trying to find.
Piggybacking off of that, you can maybe insert freshmen or other newcomers and get their feet wet a little bit in games. Starting pitcher, for exactly what you're saying, he has to have it when he walks from the bullpen to the mound. And how do you balance those two things between getting somebody's feet wet later on in the game?
Well, the challenge is, no one can predict what the score is going to be. So you may go into a weekend saying, yeah, I'd like to get so-and-so some at-bats in this situation or that situation, but then that's easy to say before the game starts, and then all of a sudden you're in a dogfight and those at-bats aren't to be had. But we don't have, if this is always kid Coach Fisher and Buzz, I mean, they have open substitution. You can roll a guy out there and have him be out and play a couple plays and be on the kickoff team, or get a couple minutes and come out, and then he goes home, he played in the game, and mom and dad, my son played in the game. And in baseball, when somebody comes out, they don't get to go back in. And so that's the challenge, and when you only play 4 games a week, it's even more of a challenge. But from a starting pitching standpoint, I'm more likely, if I have a question on a guy, like if I'm not quite sure he's going to do great, I'm way more likely to start him in the game than I am, because a guy you have a question on, you're not going to bring him out of the bullpen if the game's in question. You're going to bring the guy that you know is going to throw strikes, or you know what you're going to get, right? So anyway, Wansing, for example, has been good at times for us, and he's had some not great days. But the only way we're going to tell is to get him in the game. And then same thing with Cortez. Cortez has drastically improved from last year. Is he where he wants to be? No, but no young player is. And so I think giving those guys a chance to start the game gives them a chance to settle in a little bit. But it also gives us a chance to, if they don't do great, we can move on to somebody else and play offense too.
If utilized in the right way, does the new pace of play rules, can it benefit the pitchers?
100% benefits the pitcher. A lot of it depends on the umpire, because it's a 20-second clock. the hitter has to be ready at 10 seconds. So if the pitcher's forcing the action and the umpire doesn't allow the hitter, the first 10 seconds is for the hitter. So if the pitcher's ready to go at 16 and he starts, but the hitter's not ready, then the umpire has to slow him down. And what we've seen in practice, at least, sometimes umpires, they're trying to get the game over with too. And so there's going to be it's going to be an interesting little battle. It's going to be a little interesting thing between how umpires apply the rules, how many of these teams have practiced it the way we have. We're using the electronic system to get the pitches. So right now on defense, our pitchers are moving at record pace, which puts pressure on the hitter to get ready. So it remains to be seen, but it's going to be interesting. I think the pace of play is definitely faster.
Do you think that's good for college baseball?
I think pace of play is decent for college baseball. I don't know that I think there are other ways to shorten the length of games and to have the pace of play. But I think there's ways like technology that could have done that, and maybe they'll do that in the future. I think the beauty of baseball is that there is no clock. Like you got to get get them out 27 times, and they got to get you out 27 most of the time. So, but I'm more of a purist than most people. So, but I get it. I get it. If you really want to speed the game up, play with wood bats. But in college baseball, that would be pretty boring if you like offense.
Kind of interesting watching Coach Jeske over there. It looks like he's texting the whole game.
Yeah.
A little bit of a change.
Yeah, yeah. I asked him. He said he likes it better. He likes it better than we still have the earpiece and the catcher's deal. I'll tell you where I really like it is and this is the whole reason we did it. We didn't go to the wristband because of the time. We went to it because you can't step off except one time per hitter. So I wanted to do anything. I always try and think, in this scenario, what's the worst possible thing that can happen, and how can we prevent that? So to me, when they first came out with the can only step off once, I'm thinking, okay, I have a freshman, he's 18 years old, we're playing at Alex Box Stadium, there's 10,000 Tiger fans, the bases are loaded in a 3-2 count, and he's already stepped off once, and he looks in and he sees the sign, and he's not quite sure what that is. What does he do? He can't step off, it's ball 4. What do you do? What are you going to do? Just throw the ball forward? So I was like, hey man, we have to go out and look and see what is the thing that will give us the best chance to be 100% on the signs, and whether it be pitches or pickoffs or anything else. And it's worked great. It's been consistent. All the players have it. And so, we made that move early in fall practice. So I don't know I'm sure there'll be other teams as prepared, but we are as prepared as any team in the country to go play this kind of baseball.
What has been done preparation-wise to prepare the position players for dealing with the wristband? I talked to Brett, and he said that he's really in his head about making sure he doesn't give it away. So what kind of coaching has been done to ensure that? Yeah, I mean,
every single player on the field knows what's coming. And so, if you know an off-speed pitch is coming, then you may adjust yourself in the field to where you think the ball may be hit. You may anticipate the ball being hit, but you definitely can't do it too early because it's same thing, happens. The middle infielders, even when in the old days, last year, when the catcher would put the fingers down, then the middle infielders would see that. They would have a way to relay it to the corner infielders. And sometimes you can sit where I sit in the dugout, and you see the second baseman move too early. Well, that's a fastball. You see the second baseman move a different. Well, that's an off-speed pitch. So you got to do it at the right time, and that just takes practice. And that's why we've been doing it all fall and all spring. So I don't think Brett needs to worry. He'll be all right. No one's looking at him anyway.
With 2 days before first pitch, where do you think stand with the catching position?
Yeah, I think all three of those guys have done a nice job. They all bring something different to the table. I think Bard and Kaufer have been a little more consistent. JD is he's the most physically talented player of the three, kind of like I compared the other day. It's kind of a Logan Britt situation where he's tooled out beyond belief. He can run. He's got a great arm. When he hits the ball, it goes a long way type thing. He really catches well. He's as good a defender as all three of them. But for me, I evaluate a catcher first and foremost. You catch the ball. You keep the strikes. The ones in between, can you make the slightly ball look like a strike and then keep the ball from going to the backstop? That's the most important thing. The second most important thing is functioning in our offense. That's the second most important thing. And then the third most important thing is throwing. right? Throwing is not, stolen bases are off the pitcher, right? Now you can't be horrible thrower, but I'll take a accurate average thrower over a guy that's got some rocket that can't put it on the base consistently. So if the ball's constantly going in center field or getting thrown away, giving up extra bases, I don't want that. But if we do a good job as a pitching staff, the best college catchers that I've ever been around didn't have rocket arms. They could really catch and block, they could hit, or they could function in the offense, right? They played a real role in the offense, and they threw accurately. So, well, you know, the guys that all three are going to get to play at some point. Just hopefully by conference play, someone's taken over a little bit.
Wyatt talked about how last season was a little bit different expectations-wise. This season, obviously, more expectations. So how would you like to see the team handle the success they had last season and the expectations that kind of come with that?
Well, they've already shown me that they're capable of handling that kind of thing because of the way they've worked all fall and all winter and spring, you know. And so nobody has any higher expectation of our program than the players and the coaching staff. So, and I think, as I've said before, the very best players and the very best coaches, you run toward expectation. You don't run away from it. So you come to a place like A&M because you should be good at baseball. Now we need to keep up. You know, I mean, we have a lot of work to do on this facility, and we have a lot of growth to do in this program. It's definitely not where it needs to be, but everybody knows that, and we're working like crazy toward it.
Coach, there's a lot of news today about name, image, and likeness with the 12th Man Foundation response to it. Is baseball in a unique position that you had guys that would leave for low-ball MLB offers that NIL can at least give them the opportunity to come back and not lose anything by coming back as a fifth-year senior or fourth-year junior, when before pro baseball said, take it or leave it, this is it if you want to go into pro baseball? Yeah,
that's 100%. To me, you know, everybody can have different opinions on NIL, you know, and the stories of $1 million contracts and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that stuff's not in college baseball, at least not yet. But where NIL really is a great thing is exactly what you said, because it allows a guy to graduate. It allows Trevor Werner to come back and graduate. And, you know, the guys who are the Ace of Laces of the world that are first rounders, we want those guys to get out and start their professional baseball career and be a high draft pick and take that, you know, good bonus and go see what they can do and chase their dream. But it's the tweener player. It's the guy that, hey, I'm thinking about signing for $200,000, or I'm not sure what I want to do with this or that. Those are the guys that they need to be in college. Because baseball is not a career choice. Baseball is a dream that we hope works out, right? And so that's where NIL, and it help in other ways, but that's where NIL can help a player like that come back to school, because you have to remember the timing of all this stuff is so poor. The draft is in July. The draft is after the date that we have to renew or not renew a scholarship. It's the dumbest thing in history of athletics. Like, I have to renew or not renew a scholarship before I even know the guy's going to be drafted or not. And then we don't know if he's going to sign or not till August 1st. So that whole time period is such a mess. That's where NIL can help, you know, because that way, hey, man, we can use this scholarship on somebody else. If you decide to come back to school, then here's some other avenues by which we can help you afford to come back.
Your thoughts on Seattle this weekend?
Yeah, I think you have a big transition. I've watched video on their players. Only like 5 or 6 guys on their team return position player wise. I think 6 or 8 pitchers. But they have gotten some transfers, which we've been able to watch a little bit. But you know, the first game of the season, you never know what you're going to get from your team or their team. So I know they have a senior left-handed pitcher. Those always scare me to death because guys that, you know, don't have premium stuff but are still around and they're pitching on Friday, what does that mean? That means they can really pitch. And that means that they're not afraid and they've been in the wars. So that's what we're going to see on Friday night. But, you know, for us, it's, you know, I mean, I hate to say it's a nameless opponent. I mean, we're just excited to play somebody else and get these guys out in front of a great crowd, which I know we'll have, and start figuring our team out and figure out what we needed to be better at. All right.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.